Hey there, I'm Amy Thompson, 32, killing it in my marketing career, and living what I thought was the dream life. My husband, Mark. He's a lawyer, sharp as a whip, though often more married to his job than to me. We've got a cute little house in the suburbs, weekend barbecues, the whole 9 yards. Amy, can you watch Tommy this Saturday? I've got a hair appointment. My sister-in-law, Lisa, chirps over the phone. Of course, Lisa. You know I love spending time with the little guy. I reply, genuinely happy to help with her adorable, high-energy 5-year-old. Thanks, you're a lifesaver, she says. But there's something off in her tone, a hesitance I can't quite place. I brush it off, family's family, right? Saturday arrives, and Tommy's a whirlwind of energy. Aunt Amy, can we go to the park? Please, please, please. You bet, champ. Let's go tire you out, I laugh, ruffling his hair. We're at the park, and I'm pushing Tommy on the swings when across the street I spot Lisa. She's not at her hair appointment, she's window shopping, watching us with an expression so dark it sends a chill down my spine. If looks could kill. That night, I wait up for Mark. He finally trudges in, looking exhausted, barely glancing up from his phone. Hey, how was your day? I ask, hoping for a moment of connection. Busy, big case. Probably working all weekend, he mutters. I sigh, the familiar ache of loneliness creeping in. Mark, can we plan a date night soon? It feels like we hardly see each other anymore. He finally looks at me, but his gaze is distant. Sure. I'll check my schedule, he says, knowing full well he won't. The next day, we're at a family dinner, and Lisa's acting strangely, throwing me these odd glances. Finally, she pipes up, her voice syrupy sweet. So, Amy, how's that big project going at work? Must be nice to have so much freedom. I sense the barb behind her words. It's going well, thanks. How's the job hunt on your end? Lisa's smile tightens. Oh, it's tough finding something that works with Tommy's schedule. If you need any help with your resume or anything, just let me know, I offer, trying to stay friendly. Oh, I'm sure you'd love to help, she mutters under her breath, her voice laced with sarcasm. The tension at the table is thick, but Mark remains oblivious, focused on his food. As we're leaving, I overhear Lisa talking to Mark. I don't know how Amy does it all. Work, taking care of Tommy. I just hope she's not stretching herself too thin. Her words sting, but I bite my tongue. I'm just trying to be a good aunt, a good sister-in-law. Is that really so wrong? That night, lying in bed next to Mark's snoring form, I can't shake the uneasy feeling that something's shifting, that the life I thought was so solid is starting to crack. And deep down, I'm afraid of what I might find on the other side. Sunday dinner comes around again, and the air feels thick with unspoken tension. As I help Tommy cut his chicken, I feel Lisa's eyes boring into me. You're so good with him, Amy, Mark's mom says, smiling. I force a smile and catch Lisa's eye roll. Thanks, I love spending time with him. Oh, I bet you do, Lisa snaps, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mark looks up from his plate, frowning. What's that supposed to mean, Lisa? Lisa shoves her chair back, standing abruptly. It means I can't take this anymore. I won't let you hurt my son. The room falls silent, my heart pounding in my chest. Lisa, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Amy. I've seen the bruises. Tommy told me everything. She pulls Tommy close, shielding him. Tommy's eyes go wide, darting between us. Mommy, It's okay, baby. You don't have to be scared anymore. Lisa coos, her gaze fierce as she glares at me. I stand, my legs shaking. Lisa, this is insane. I would never hurt Tommy, never. Mark's voice slices through the chaos. Amy, is this true? I turn to him desperate. Of course not. How could you even ask that? Lisa spits. I've seen it myself, the way you grab him, how rough you are. It's abuse, plain and simple. That's a lie. I shout, my composure unraveling. Mark, you know me. You know I would never? Mark's face hardened, and his next words hit me like a physical blow. I think you should leave, Amy. What? Mark, no, you can't possibly believe this, I gasped, looking around the room, desperate for anyone to stand up for me. I said leave, Mark roared, slamming his fist on the table. Tommy burst into tears, clinging to Lisa as she whispered soothing words, casting a look of smug triumph in my direction. I'm sorry, Aunt Amy, Tommy sobbed. Oh, Tommy, sweetie, it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. I tried to reassure him, my voice breaking. But all around me, I saw only judgment and disgust. Faces of people who just moments ago had been my family. Emmy, Mark's dad said, stepping between us. I think it's best if you go. We need to sort this out. Sort what out? There's nothing to sort. I pleaded, desperate. But the only response was Lisa's smug smirk. I always knew there was something off about you, she sneered. Shut up, Lisa, I snapped, instantly regretting it as Tommy flinched. That was the last straw. Mark grabbed my arm, yanking me toward the door. That's enough. Get your things and go. Mark, please, I begged, tears streaming down my face. Don't do this. Let me explain. But his eyes were cold, foreign. There's nothing to explain. I want you out of our house. Now. In a daze, I packed a suitcase, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it closed. The family watched in silence as Mark practically shoved me out the door. I'll have my lawyer contact you, he said, his voice empty, as if I were a stranger. Mark, please, I whispered one last time. But he slammed the door in my face, leaving me alone on the porch, the reality of what had happened crashing over me. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? Where could I go? Who would believe me? As I stumbled down the steps, suitcase dragging behind me, I heard Lisa's voice through the window. It's okay now, Tommy. The bad lady is gone. Something broke inside me. I started running away from the lies, the betrayal, and a life I thought I knew. My world had shattered in an instant, leaving me with nothing but the clothes on my back and a fierce need for justice. Somehow, someway, I would clear my name. The next few weeks were a blur of cheap motels and sleepless nights. I'd sit on lumpy mattresses, staring at my phone, willing it to ring with news that this was all some terrible mistake. But the phone stayed silent. My career soon slipped away too. Amy Thompson, my boss's voice crackled over the line one morning. We need to talk about your situation. I swallowed hard. Of course, sir. I can explain. Save it. Just take some time off. Paid leave. We'll reassess in a month. He hung up before I could reply. That afternoon, desperate, I found myself in the dingy office of a private investigator named Jack. He sat across from me, eyebrow raised as I slid an envelope over the desk. Every cent of my savings inside. So, you want me to dig into your sister-in-law's past? He asked. I nodded, clinging to the sliver of hope that Lisa wasn't as perfect as she seemed. Days turned into weeks. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, hoping for news. Finally, Jack called me. You're going to want to hear this, he said, his tone grave. I held my breath as he laid it all out. Lisa's history of manipulation, financial troubles, even a dropped fraud charge from years back. But the real kicker? I've been watching the family's business accounts. There's money missing, big chunks. Guess who has access? My blood ran cold. Lisa. Bingo, I think she's covering her tracks. It all made sense. The jealousy, the accusations, the smugness. But the real bombshell came a week later when Jack showed up with a recording. I managed to get this from Lisa's house. Don't ask how, he said, playing the audio. Lisa's voice came through, dripping with false sweetness. Tommy, remember our little game? If anyone asks, you say Aunt Amy hurt you. Can you do that for Mommy? Tommy's small voice was confused, hesitant. But Aunt Amy didn't hurt me. I know, sweetie, but this is our special game. It'll help Mommy, okay. I felt sick, my stomach churning with horror and fury. She'd coached him. She'd made him lie. Jack nodded, his expression dark. We've got her. I threw myself into building my case. Every scrap of evidence, every inconsistency in Lisa's story, I documented meticulously. But I knew it still wasn't enough. I needed someone else on my side, someone who'd seen Tommy in a different light. That's when I remembered Miss Patel, Tommy's kindergarten teacher. On a whim, I reached out, half expecting her to brush me off. Amy? Miss Patel's voice was soft but wary. I've actually been a bit worried about Tommy. He seemed different lately. Withdrawn. Is everything okay? I took a deep breath and laid it all out. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then finally she replied, I believe you, Amy. Tommy's behavior. It makes sense now. How can I help? With Miss Patel's observations added to my growing file, I felt like I had a fighting chance. But confronting Lisa head-on would be reckless. I needed a plan. Late one night, in my tiny rented room, I spread out all the evidence, the financial records, the recording of her coaching Tommy, Miss Patel's statement. Piece by piece, a strategy began to form. "All right, Lisa," I muttered to myself, a mix of nerves and determination fueling me. "You want to play games? Let's play." I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I dialed a number I never thought I'd call again. "Mark, it's me. We need to talk, and you're going to want to hear what I have to say." The day of the family meeting, my stomach twisted with anxiety. I had convinced Mark to gather everyone, telling him I wanted reconciliation. But as I entered the room, seeing their familiar faces with unfamiliar expressions of mistrust, my heart steeled itself. If only they knew. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I think it's time we cleared the air." Lisa crossed her arms, her lips curling into a smirk. "What's there to clear? We all know what you did." "Actually, Lisa, we're here to talk about what you did." I met her gaze unflinchingly, and the room fell silent. Piece by piece, I laid out the evidence. Financial records showed Lisa's embezzlement. Recordings exposed her coaching Tommy, while Miss Patel's statement spoke of Tommy's behavior changes. The room was so still, I could hear everyone's breath catching. "This is ridiculous," Lisa sputtered, but the panic in her eyes gave her away. Mark's face went pale as he turned to her. "Lisa," he said, voice tight, "is this true?" Before she could respond, Tommy, clutching his mother's arm, burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Daddy. Mommy told me to say Aunt Amy hurt me, but she didn't. It was a game. But I don't want to play anymore." Chaos erupted. Lisa lunged to grab Tommy, but Mark's parents restrained her, horrified by the truth unraveling before them. "How could you?" Mark's voice was barely a whisper, his face stricken as he stared at his sister. I turned to him, my voice cold. "How could I? Mark, you didn't even give me a chance to explain. You threw me out without a second thought." Mark reached for my hand, his expression twisted with regret. "Amy, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Is there any way we can?" I pulled my hand back, shaking my head. "No, Mark. We can't. I've already filed for divorce." His face crumpled, but I felt nothing. The love I'd once had for him had died the moment he chose not to believe in me. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Lisa faced charges of fraud and child manipulation. Mark? Last I heard, he was drowning in whiskey and regret, a shadow of the man I'd once thought I knew. As for me, I turned my pain into purpose. I started a support group for people who'd been falsely accused, who'd watched their lives torn apart by lies. Every week, I listened to stories like mine, offering the understanding I'd wish I'd had in my darkest moments. 1 year later, I stood on stage, accepting an award for my advocacy work. The applause washed over me, but all I could think of was how far I'd come. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, scanning the audience. "To everyone who's ever been falsely accused, whose world has been turned upside down by lies, this is for you. Our voices matter. Our truth matters." As I stepped off stage, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my boyfriend David. "Congrats, babe. Dinner to celebrate." I smiled, feeling truly happy for the first time in ages. The old Amy was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and unafraid to fight for herself. As I walked out into the cool night air, I thought of Tommy and hoped he'd heal in time. Maybe someday, when he was older, he'd understand what had happened. But now, I had my own life to live, a life I'd fought to reclaim. And nobody, not Mark, not Lisa, not anyone, would ever take that from me again. A cab pulled up, and I climbed in, the driver glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Where to miss? I grinned, savoring the freedom of choice. "To the future," I said, knowing I truly meant it. If you were in Amy's shoes, would you have forgiven Mark for doubting you so quickly, or was his betrayal truly unforgivable?